In the quiet hours before dawn, while most of the world still sleeps beneath blankets of dew and shadow, the wild is already awake, stretching, snarling, and sharpening its teeth. There are no lullabies here, no soft cradles or gentle coos. In this realm ruled by tooth and claw, birth is not the beginning of life. It's the start of battle. Here, childhood isn't a gentle age of learning and wonder. It's a deadly curriculum where survival is the only grade that matters. And nature, she's the cruelest teacher of all. Across continents and ecosystems, young predators enter this world not as innocent bystanders, but as raw recruits in an ancient, unforgiving boot camp. The moment their eyes flutter open or their limbs twitch in early motion, the training begins. No creature is spared the rough touch of instinct. From the blistering savannas of Africa to the icy fjords of the Arctic, predator offspring inherit a legacy written in blood, a brutal blueprint etched into their DNA that whispers one essential command: kill or be killed. Let us begin in the sunburnt grasslands of the Serengeti, where lion cubs are born beneath the veil of golden reeds, blinking against the fierce African sun. For a few fleeting moments, they are nothing more than fuzzy, mewling bundles, seemingly harmless and comically clumsy. But beneath that charming fuzz lies the machinery of a future killer. Their games of pouncing and wrestling are not mere child's play. They are rehearsals for takedowns. They sink their teeth into siblings' ears not to annoy, but to test bite force. When they ambush each other from behind tufts of dry grass, they're learning stealth. And when they yelp from a misplaced claw or a rough tackle, they're learning pain, the kind that toughens the skin and hardens the resolve. By the time they're weaned, these cubs have already logged hours of battle practice. They're not playing to pass the time. They're playing to live. And they're not alone. On the other side of this dusty arena, hyena pups are undergoing their own initiation. Raised in subterranean dens and guarded by a matriarchal mafia, these pups enter the world already ranked by the social standing of their mothers. The highborn bully the lowborn. The siblings fight each other in brutal rites of passage, often drawing blood, sometimes taking lives. In some hyena clans, the stronger twin will kill its sibling within days of birth, in what scientists euphemistically call siblicide. It's not personal, it's practical. There's only so much milk to go around, only so much energy the mother can spare. It's economics by nature's cruel calculus. And as harsh as it sounds, this early violence shapes them into cunning scavengers and ruthless killers, equipped with jaws that can crush bone and the audacity to challenge lions for their meals. If the savannah is nature's battlefield, then the Arctic is its gladiator arena. Here, polar bear cubs emerge into a white wasteland where every shadow could be death. Born blind and helpless in the warmth of an ice den, their first lesson is patience. Months spent suckling and growing while the storm rages outside. But once they step into the blinding light, it's a crash course in survival. Their mother, gaunt from fasting, will lead them across miles of shifting ice, hunting seals hidden beneath breathing holes. The cubs follow, learning the silence of the stalk, the timing of the strike, the urgency of a clean kill. Failure means hunger. Hunger means death. There are no second chances on the ice. In the dense rainforests of South America, jaguar cubs tiptoe through shadows, mimicking their mother's elegant predatory dance. They crouch low, ears perked, muscles tensed. Their paws fall silent on the leaf litter as they track darting birds or scurrying monkeys, not to kill yet, but to memorize the patterns. Their golden eyes burn with curiosity and calculation. Each misstep teaches caution. Each near success builds confidence. They are apprentices in camouflage, in patience, in ambush. One day, they will be solo assassins, capable of snapping a caiman's spine with a single bite. But for now, they must earn their stripes. And then there are those who never see their siblings as companions at all. In the towering cliffs of Central Asia, golden eagle chicks hatch in the same nest. But there is room for only one. The older, stronger chick will peck, shove, and smother the younger. Not out of malice, but necessity. The parents will not feed both. Nature doesn't tolerate waste, and she certainly doesn't mediate sibling disputes. The survivor grows strong on stolen warmth and a monopoly of meals, while the weaker chick tumbles into oblivion, a small splash in a brutal tide of avian ambition. The ocean is no gentler. In the dark, silent womb of a sand tiger shark, embryonic siblings engage in an unimaginable ritual, intrauterine cannibalism. That's not science fiction. That's a real, documented strategy. The first shark pup to develop teeth begins to hunt down its unhatched brothers and sisters, devouring them one by one until it's the sole survivor. The womb becomes an arena, a gladiator pit, a twisted nursery where only the strongest and hungriest wins. And when that single survivor is born, it's already a killer. It had no choice but to be one. Even in the skies, the predator chicks of hawks, owls, and falcons engage in merciless rivalry. The eldest will monopolize food drops, shoving the smaller ones aside. The weak often starve while their stronger siblings grow fat on abundance. Nature may look majestic from the outside, but zoom in close, and it's a cutthroat drama of betrayal, greed, and ambition, all before the first flight. All across the animal kingdom, childhood is a battlefield. And yet within this savagery there is a strange elegance, a method to the madness. Every brutal lesson serves a purpose. These young killers are not mindless monsters. They are products of millennia of evolution, sculpted by the relentless pressure to survive. Their instincts are honed through hardship, their intelligence sharpened through pain, their strength forged in competition. And as they grow, they do not simply learn to kill, they learn to kill well. Nature has no mercy for the weak, but she rewards the prepared. The play fighting of lion cubs, the territorial squabbles of hyenas, the high-altitude duels of eagle chicks, all of these are rehearsals. Blueprints, simulations for future battles they will one day face on their own. They are learning the terrain of fear, the dance of dominance, the cost of a mistake. They are studying survival as if their lives depend on it, because they do. In the human world, childhood is a sacred sanctuary, protected and extended. But in the wild, it is fleeting, brutal, and essential. No time for lullabies, no shelter from reality. Just the relentless drumbeat of nature's oldest truth, to hunt or be hunted, to thrive or to perish. For the young of the wild, innocence isn't an option, it's a liability. So as we step deeper into this savage kindergarten, prepare yourself. What follows isn't a series of cute animal stories, it's the origin tales of nature's most efficient killers. Their childhoods are blood-soaked boot camps, where love is tough, lessons are lethal, and survival is the final exam. And in this school, failure is never an option. The African savanna, under the golden scorch of the midday sun, may appear like a tranquil painting, an endless expanse of waving grasses, acacia trees casting long shadows, and herds lazily grazing in the heat haze. But look closer, peel back the soft layers of illusion, and the cracks begin to show. This land isn't peaceful. It's an ancient battlefield, a place where bloodlines clash in an eternal feud, and where vendettas are passed down through generations like heirlooms. For two of Africa's most notorious carnivores, the lion and the hyena, this is no mere turf war. This is personal. And strangely, it all begins with the babies. In the dry season, when waterholes shrink and the game grows thin, lionesses retreat into hidden thickets to give birth. There, shielded from the world, their cubs are born into darkness and vulnerability. Helpless, blind, and barely the size of a house cat, they whimper and crawl toward their mother's warmth, oblivious to the chaos that awaits them beyond the grass. For the first few weeks, these cubs know only the gentle grooming of their mother's tongue and the rhythmic rise and fall of her breathing. But that illusion of safety is a short-lived dream, because once they step out of the den and into the open, they aren't just lion cubs anymore. They're heirs to a throne and targets for a rival kingdom. Not far away, deep within the earth in a burrow riddled with tunnels and chambers, hyena pups are born under very different circumstances. Spotted hyenas live in matriarchal clans where power is passed down not through strength alone, but through bloodline and brutal politics. The highest-ranking female births pups that will automatically outrank even grown males. From day one, the pups know their place in the pecking order, and they enforce it. Play fights turn savage. Siblings become punching bags or prey. In some cases, one pup simply eliminates the other, snuffing out competition before the race for dominance even begins. But what makes hyena pups particularly special is not just their ruthlessness, it's their training. While lion cubs learn through mimicry and imitation, hyena pups are trained through chaos. The den is a loud, feral nursery, filled with shrieking laughs and growls, where pups bite ears, wrestle throats, and test their balance by trying to knock each other down. Older juveniles join the fray, adding unpredictability to every encounter. What might start as a pounce ends in a dog pile. And while it may look like animal antics, every skirmish fine-tunes the pup's reflexes, coordination, and pain threshold. They are learning how to outmaneuver, overwhelm, and outlast. It's not just about muscle, it's about mayhem. Back on the lion side, the education is no less intense. Once cubs join the pride, their days are filled with mock hunts. They stalk insects, ambush siblings, and pounce on tails. The lionesses allow it all, even encourage it, because they know each tumble is a building block. Muscles strengthen, eyes sharpen, strategies evolve. One cub learns to distract, another sneaks behind. And slowly the skills of the ambush predator take form. But what the cubs don't yet understand is that every game is preparation for something much darker. One day they won't be ambushing a tail, they'll be ambushing a hyena. For lions and hyenas, hatred isn't taught, it's absorbed. As the cubs grow, so does the war. Lion cubs see hyenas as noisy thieves, scavengers who lurk around kills, waiting to steal the pride's hard-earned meals. Sometimes hyenas get bolder, rushing in groups, testing the pride's defenses. They shriek and dart, nip and flee, always just out of reach. And if they catch a lone lion cub, it's slaughter. Hyenas will kill cubs if they can, not necessarily for food, but for strategy. Fewer lions mean fewer future threats. This isn't just survival, it's calculated assassination. The lionesses know this. Every time they lose a cub to a hyena raid, the grudge deepens. The next time they see a hyena, even if it's nowhere near their food, the attack is swift and merciless, and the cubs watch. They see their mothers charge with fury, hear the bones crack beneath a lion's crushing bite, and they learn. The lesson is simple. Hyenas are not competitors. They are enemies. But it goes both ways. Young hyenas witness lion attacks that leave their clanmates limping or dead. They see the matriarchs rage when a lion roars too close to the den. And when the clan gathers to harass a lone lioness, pups are there, on the edge, watching the choreography of chaos. They study how the group moves, how they encircle, how they harass. One day they will do the same. One day they will lead. And so the war continues, not in grand battles, but in dozens of small, brutal encounters spread over a lifetime. A lion cub chases a hyena shadow for fun. A hyena pup mocks a lion's growl in play. But underneath the playfulness is programming. An instinct passed down, reinforced by every death, every chase, every stolen meal. The battlefield is everywhere. At the watering hole, at the edge of a fresh kill, in the tall grass during a night hunt. And often the young are there, not always fighting, but always learning. By adolescence, the lines are drawn. Juvenile lions, cocky and coordinated, practice flanking maneuvers with their siblings. They sneak up on jackals just to flex their skills. Young hyenas, gangly and manic, travel in cliques, yipping and testing boundaries, ready to gang up on an unsuspecting warthog or a lost lion cub. Tensions boil. The smallest scuffle can erupt into a clan versus pride brawl, complete with earth-shaking roars and bone-chilling cackles. Yet, for all this hatred, both species play a crucial role in the ecosystem. Lions, with their strength and speed, keep herbivore populations in check, while hyenas, with their scavenging and cleaning habits, prevent disease from spreading through decay. They are rival kings of different courts. Lion, the brutal monarch of muscle. Hyena, the anarchic queen of cunning. But there can only be one ruler per kill, per territory, per moment. This chapter of the Savannah's story isn't about winners and losers, it's about legacy. Because every lion cub and hyena pup carries more than just their own life. They carry a piece of an eternal war, etched into instinct and experience. Their childhoods are forged not in innocence, but in rivalry. They don't merely grow into predators, they grow into warriors. And while the tourists may snap photos of the yawning cub or the dozing hyena, what they don't see is the silent training. The look exchanged between two juvenile rivals across the watering hole. The playful bite that carries the weight of generations. The stalk that turns into a sprint. The laughter that turns into a shriek. Childhood in the savannah is not a phase, it's a prelude to war. And the war? It never ends. High in the whispering forests of the northern hemisphere, where the pines stretch like cathedral spires, and the wind carries secrets through branches dusted with snow. Something ancient is stirring. Beneath a rocky ledge, shielded by the thickets of brush and the hush of falling needles, a new generation of predators opens their eyes to the world. They are small, awkward and round, little bundles of fur that resemble clumsy cotton balls more than carnivores. But don't let their disarming charm fool you. These creatures are not innocent. They are wolves, and though they wobble and whine now, their path is already etched in instinct. They were not born to play. They were born to hunt. The story of the wolf pup is a tale of transformation, of evolution condensed into months, of savagery wrapped in fluff. From the moment they're born, blind and deaf, nestled against their mother's belly for warmth, the clock starts ticking. Nature doesn't hand out participation trophies, especially not here, in the heart of predator territory, where elk, moose and deer roam with wary eyes and twitching ears. Every bite of meat a wolf pup consumes is earned through a legacy of collaboration, coordination and chaos. They're not raised as individuals. They're raised as a unit, as a pack, and the lessons begin before their baby teeth even fall out. For the first few weeks, the pups stay hidden in the den, suckling in a tight, wiggling pile of limbs and fur. Their world is small, a belly, a heartbeat, a warmth. The outside is a mystery, and for good reason. At this fragile stage, they're defenseless against everything from bears to eagles. But even in this sheltered phase, the subtle hints of their future emerge. One pup might always crawl atop the others, already asserting dominance. Another might bite down a little harder during suckling, testing pain thresholds. These early quirks are not just cute anecdotes for nature documentaries. They're the seeds of rank, of roles, of future battles and bonds. When their eyes open and their legs find enough strength to stumble and sway, they emerge from the darkness into the light of the den entrance. The world beyond is a vast, living classroom, wild, dangerous, and endlessly instructive. At first, their universe is composed of smells and sounds. Every twig crack, every fluttering bird, every distant howl is a lesson. The adult wolves, stoic, scarred veterans of the hunt, hover nearby. Some are parents, others aunts or uncles. In the wolf world, raising pups is a community effort. This is not a lone wolf story. It's a saga of collective survival where the tribe trains its own, and the curriculum? Ruthlessly effective. Play is the first lesson, and it's taken very seriously. What appears to be harmless fun, tug of war with a stick, rolling down a slope, chasing a tail, is actually a finely tuned training program. The pups chase each other in circles, learning acceleration and pivoting. They leap over logs, developing muscle memory for uneven terrain. They stage mock ambushes, hiding behind bushes before pouncing on an unsuspecting sibling. Sometimes it ends in snarls, but more often in laughter like growls and tumbling heaps. Every nip teaches precision, every stumble teaches caution, and every game of who can knock over whom is a rehearsal for the takedowns they'll one day attempt on full-grown elk. Hierarchy begins to form, quietly at first, then more overtly. One pup starts pinning the others during rough play. Another is content to trail behind. Rank in a wolf pack is fluid in youth, but early patterns can persist. The dominant ones, often the most aggressive and daring, lead the chases and claim the best spots during feeding. But it's not just brute strength that wins the game. Intelligence, timing, and social finesse matter just as much. Wolves are not lions. They don't rely on overwhelming force. They rely on strategy, on cohesion, on perfect execution of a shared goal. That starts here, with the pups learning when to strike and when to yield. As weeks turn into months, the pups begin tagging along on short trips with the pack. These aren't full-scale hunts. Not yet. These are field trips, scouting missions and scent-tracking excursions that stretch the boundaries of their world. They learn to move silently through underbrush, to read the cues of the adults, to stop when the leader stops, and to follow without question. Coordination becomes second nature. The wolf pack doesn't bark orders. It moves as one, like a living organism composed of many bodies and one mind. Watching a mature pack in motion is like watching a symphony of muscle and instinct, and these pups are learning their instruments. Eventually the day comes when the training wheels come off. The pups, now lanky adolescents with sharper eyes and leaner muscles, join the adults on a real hunt. It's not a guaranteed success. In fact, it rarely is. The prey is strong, fast, and just as desperate to live. But even in failure, the young wolves absorb everything. They learn how the pack fans out to encircle a herd, how to isolate the weakest, how to take turns wearing it down. They study the unspoken signals, an ear twitch here, a flick of the tail there, that orchestrate the ambush. They feel the surge of adrenaline when the chase begins and the hum of the kill when it ends. And when they do finally make their first successful takedown, the celebration is both feral and familial. There is growling and jostling over the best cuts, yes, but also grooming, tail wagging, and the kind of bonding that only comes from sharing victory. These moments seal the pack together, not just in blood but in trust. A wolf must know that when it lunges, its brother or sister is flanking, that when it blocks an escape route, the rest are closing in. Trust is everything. And it's been built since the first tug of war, the first clumsy tackle, the first shared sniff of a strange scent in the air. Of course, not every pup becomes a leader. Some will leave the pack when maturity calls, striking out to find new territory and mates. Others will remain, climbing the internal ranks, defending territory, raising the next generation. But all will carry the lessons of their brutal schooling. They are not killers by chance. They are killers by design, shaped by the pressure of teamwork, honed by the friction of competition, and guided by the ancient blueprints etched into their bones. It's easy to romanticize the wolf, majestic, noble, mysterious. But strip away the myth, and what you find is something far more impressive. A creature that has mastered not just the art of the hunt, but the architecture of social living. That has learned, through generations of trial and error, that the pack is stronger than the individual, and that even the fiercest predator is nothing without its allies. And it all begins with a snowball-shaped pup, tumbling through the forest on oversized paws, learning to be dangerous in the most dangerous school of all, the wild. Because in the world of wolves, there is no graduation ceremony. Just the quiet understanding that one day you won't just be part of the pack, you'll be its edge, its bite, its shadow in the trees. High above the jagged cliffs of remote mountain ranges, where the wind screams like an ancient ghost and the clouds drift like aimless spirits, an empire is forged from feathers and fury. This is the realm of the golden eagle, a bird so regal and powerful that ancient civilizations once believed it carried the sun on its wings. With a wingspan stretching nearly 8 feet and eyes so sharp they can see a rabbit twitch from 2 miles away, the golden eagle rules the sky like a feathered tyrant. But as majestic as these raptors appear soaring in solitude across the heavens, their story begins not with flight, but with a fall. And not every chick will earn the right to fly. Perched precariously on a windswept ledge, a golden eagle nest called an eyrie is not the cozy nursery one might imagine. Built from branches, bones, and scavenged debris, these enormous structures serve as the cradle and coliseum for what is perhaps one of the most brutal sibling dramas in the natural world. Within this fortress of sticks, the eagle pair, fiercely monogamous and terrifyingly efficient hunters, lays their legacy. Typically 2 eggs are laid, spaced a few days apart. It seems hopeful, even generous, as if nature were offering an extra chance at survival. But this is no gesture of kindness. It's a gamble, a strategy built on the razor's edge of scarcity. Because the second egg is not a promise. It's a backup, a contingency, a spare. When the first egg hatches, the chick, barely out of its shell, still wet with birth, is already on the clock. This firstborn, often referred to as the senior chick, is gifted a head start of several days. In those precious hours, it receives the exclusive attention of its parents, gorging on fresh kills, ground squirrels, marmots, hares, delivered straight into its open, gaping mouth. It grows rapidly, muscles stacking on bone, reflexes sharpening, strength ballooning. By the time its sibling hatches, still blinking against the light and wobbling on noodle legs, the senior chick is already twice its size. And unfortunately for the newcomer, this is not a story of warm welcomes and shared meals. From the moment the second chick arrives, it enters an arena already claimed. The senior chick, emboldened by its strength, driven by instinct, often reacts with hostility, aggression, and a savagery that defies its age. It pecks mercilessly at its sibling's head and eyes, drives it away from food with lunges and shrieks, and if left unchecked, escalates to the ultimate act, shoving the weaker chick to the edge of the nest. And from there, gravity takes care of the rest. This is not a rare occurrence. In fact, it's so common among golden eagles and their relatives that scientists have a term for it: obligate siblicide. A chilling phrase, yes, but one that perfectly captures nature's unflinching pragmatism. The second egg in this equation exists as a kind of insurance policy. If the first chick dies, perhaps from illness, deformity, or predation, the second will take its place. But if the first thrives, the second becomes a threat to its survival, a competitor for resources in an environment where every mouthful of meat matters. The nest is not a nursery, it's a contest, and the parents, they do nothing to intervene. To the untrained eye, this indifference might seem cruel. After all, humans instinctively protect their young from each other. We scold the bully, we shelter the weak. But in the wild, especially among raptors, parental care is governed by a different rulebook, one written in scarcity, risk, and the brutal economics of energy. Hunting for a golden eagle isn't easy. Even with their incredible speed, vision, and killing claws, each meal requires strategy and luck. A missed strike can mean hours of wasted effort. A hungry chick demands more than just calories, it demands consistency. Raising one chick to adulthood is hard enough. Two can be catastrophic. So the parents watch. They feed the strongest, and they let nature take its course. Some second chicks manage to survive a few days, even weeks, especially in food-rich years. But most succumb early, starved or injured, falling into the void below the nest, an unnoticed whisper lost to the howling wind. And if by some miracle they remain alive, clutching the edge of the nest and begging for food, the outcome is usually the same. The senior chick grows more dominant, more aggressive, more entitled. And the longer the imbalance continues, the more violent the relationship becomes. In time, the weaker chick is either killed or withers into a quiet disappearance. This, as morbid as it sounds, is how the golden eagle is perfected. What survives that nest is not merely a chick, but a champion. A young eagle forged by conflict, trained by scarcity, and tested by betrayal. It has fought for every scrap, defended its right to exist, and emerged not just stronger, but sharper. Nature, in her cold wisdom, often chooses the harshest crucibles to shape her greatest warriors. And in this instance, the nest itself becomes the first battlefield in a life destined for conquest. Once the victorious chick grows its flight feathers and begins to fledge, taking those first, awkward leaps into the void, it does so with a kind of confidence born from blood. These early flights are shaky, uncertain, filled with crash landings and close calls. But each day the wings grow stronger, the dives become smoother. The hunting reflexes begin to flicker into place. Under the watchful eyes of its parents, the fledgling starts practicing aerial ambushes and mock attacks, learning to ride the thermals, to read the shifting currents of the air. Soon it will be capable of stooping from heights with the velocity of a thrown javelin, striking prey with talons that hit like daggers. And somewhere deep in its core, beneath the feathers and bone, lives the memory of that first victory. The moment it became an only child, not by chance, but by design. In the grand theatre of nature, the golden eagle has become a symbol of majesty and power, appearing on flags, emblems, and royal crests. But its true legacy is one of ruthless efficiency. It is not born noble, it is born desperate. And the path to that nobility is paved with the bones of a sibling who never had a chance. To many, this may sound like a tragedy, but in the eagle's world, it is simply the way of things. Life is not fair, and fairness has never been nature's concern. What matters is survival. What matters is flight. And for the golden eagle, that journey begins with a silent duel between two helpless chicks, one of whom will soon be gone, and the other destined to soar. As the sun dips behind the mountains and casts its amber glow across the craggy peaks, the silhouette of a golden eagle glides effortlessly through the sky. Majestic, alone, unchallenged. Few will ever know the cost of that flight, the unseen sacrifice made in the shadows of a nest. But for the golden eagle, the sky isn't a gift. It's a reward earned in blood. And this is how kings of the air are made. In the heat-drenched swamps and lazy riverbanks of the tropics, where the air hangs heavy with humidity and the reeds rustle with hidden menace, drama unfolds beneath the mud and moss that would terrify even the most hardened jungle veterans. These waters, though still and sunlit on the surface, cradle an ancient battlefield, a prehistoric arena teeming with jaws, claws, and cold-blooded ambition. For most animals, life begins with a fragile lullaby of maternal protection. But for baby crocodiles, life begins with one singular reality. Everything wants to eat you, including your own family. Hidden deep within a sandbank or tucked away in a cozy pit dug by a vigilant mother, A clutch of leathery oblong eggs incubates in silence. But don't let that stillness deceive you. Inside each egg, a storm is brewing. The tiny reptiles within are not helpless embryos. These are miniature monsters in waiting, fully formed with teeth, claws, and a hunger hardwired into their DNA. They've spent weeks growing in the moist, warm darkness, fed by ancient blueprints etched into their bloodline. They are the living descendants of giants that outlived the dinosaurs, and from the moment their snouts bump against the inner wall of the egg, the countdown begins. It starts with a subtle twitch, then another, a ripple in the nest. The first cracks appear like spiderwebs across the shell's surface. And then, with a strength completely disproportionate to their size, the baby crocodiles burst through one by one, squealing with high-pitched chirps that pierce the heavy air like tiny alarm bells. These calls aren't random, they're a signal, a group announcement, a synchronized invitation to chaos. It's as if the entire clutch shouts, "We're here, we're alive, come eat us!" Because, as unfortunate as it sounds, that's often exactly what happens. For the mother crocodile, this is the cue she's been waiting for. She emerges from her camouflaged perch near the nest, moving with the slow, prehistoric grace of a living fossil, and begins to dig frantically at the soil. Her eyes, emotionless and ancient, reveal no maternal warmth, just instinct. With surprising gentleness for an animal capable of splintering bone, she scoops up the squirming babies in her massive jaws, ferrying them to the water one by one. But make no mistake, even this moment of care is laced with danger. A slight miscalculation, a quick snap instead of a scoop, and that motherly ride becomes a deadly detour. Crocodile jaws don't discriminate. They are machines built for pressure, and even the softest intention can end with a crunch. Yet if a baby croc survives this first transportation, it enters an environment no less lethal. The water is warm and murky, and it may look inviting, but it's teeming with opportunists. Storks, monitor lizards, turtles, fish, snakes, herons, and worst of all, other crocodiles. Yes, even older members of their own species see them not as kin, but as snacks. These juvenile crocs, just a few years older and slightly bigger, hover near nesting sites like teenagers loitering at the school gates. Except instead of pocket money, they're here for a mouthful of sibling sushi. And then there's the sibling threat. Baby crocodiles are born in broods, sometimes numbering over 50. Crammed together in tight spaces, snapping and tumbling over one another. These hatchlings don't always know where the enemy ends and the brother begins. The initial days of life resemble a bizarre, reptilian version of a mosh pit, where each bump or push could be an accident, or the prelude to a bite. Cannibalism among baby crocs is a grim reality, especially when food is scarce or competition is fierce. In some cases, the stronger ones begin asserting dominance from the start, chasing smaller siblings away from shelter, hogging the safest spots, and, when no one's watching, helping themselves to an easy meal. Their world is one of split-second decisions and constant hypervigilance. Every ripple could be a predator, every shadow a threat. And because they are bottom-of-the-food chain creatures at this stage, despite the legacy of their terrifying adult forms, they must learn to read danger in a language written without mercy. They master stealth not as a skill, but as a necessity. When a bird swoops overhead, they vanish beneath the waterline in the blink of an eye. When a sibling lunges, they sidestep with a precision honed in the tight confines of a kill-or-be-killed nursery. In these early days, survival is a lottery heavily rigged against them. Scientists estimate that of a typical clutch of 50 hatchlings, maybe 1 or 2 will survive to adulthood. The rest will vanish, eaten, drowned, trampled, or starved. And yet this staggering loss is not failure in the eyes of nature. It is design. Crocodiles operate on a system of quantity over quality. The mother may invest some energy in guarding her young for a few weeks, patrolling the shallows like a living tank, but her protection has limits. Eventually she leaves, driven by hunger or mating urges, and the babies are truly alone. But here's where it gets interesting. Those who survive, the bold, the fast, the lucky, don't just stumble into adulthood. They begin to show signs of the very traits that make crocodiles the rulers of their domains. Their stealth becomes unmatched. They learn to sit motionless for hours, only their eyes above water. They learn the currents, the hunting spots, the escape routes. Their aggression is tempered by calculation, their hunger managed by restraint. The skills they develop aren't just physical, they're psychological. and they carry the memories of the nursery with them. The squeals of falling siblings, the brush of a shadow that took a cousin, the taste of blood in the shared water. These aren't just scars, they're tools. And when they grow, slowly, methodically, they become the monsters the river fears. A crocodile may take 5, 10, even 15 years to reach full maturity. But when it does, it becomes one of nature's finest ambush predators. Silent, immovable, lethal. The very animal that once barely escaped a swooping bird now takes down zebras at river crossings. The same jaw that once chirped for help can now snap bones like twigs. And yet, somewhere deep in its brainstem, among the thousands of instincts encoded by millions of years of evolution, there remains the ghost of the hatchling, the frantic scramble, the desperate bite, the memory of being surrounded by brothers who might eat you. In the end, the story of a baby crocodile is not a tale of maternal love or childhood innocence. It's a gladiator story, a brutal, unfiltered dive into a world where your first breath might be your last, and where your family might be your first enemies. But for the survivors, that chaos becomes power. That fear becomes muscle memory. And those early days in the House of Cannibals, they become the crucible that shapes one of Earth's most fearsome survivors. Because crocodiles don't just grow up, they endure. Far beneath the silver glimmer of the waves, where sunlight fractures into beams and the sea hums with secrets, a new life stirs in the vast blue. It begins with a slick, dark form slipping silently into the world, a creature born into one of the most intelligent, coordinated and feared societies in the ocean. This is no ordinary birth. This is the arrival of an orca calf, an infant killer whale, and although its lungs are still catching their first breath and its flukes are still learning the rhythm of swimming, it has just joined the most elite family in the sea. It may look like a doe-eyed dolphin with tuxedo markings, but this calf is the newest recruit in a long line of marine assassins. Welcome to the Mafia of the deep. To understand the gravity of an orca birth is to grasp the scale of the empire this calf has inherited. Orcas, or killer whales, are apex predators not just because of their strength, speed and teeth, but because of their brains. They are the ocean's tacticians, generals of an underwater army that doesn't merely hunt, it strategizes. Unlike sharks, which rely on raw instinct, orcas use communication, memory and teamwork honed over generations. And within this secretive world of clicks, whistles and choreographed kills, calves are not pampered, they are trained. And that training begins before they can even hold their breath for more than a few minutes. The orca mother, one of the most devoted and intelligent caretakers in the animal kingdom, becomes the calf's tutor, bodyguard, and drill sergeant. She swims constantly, never sleeping in the traditional sense, keeping her newborn afloat and close at all times. This is not merely affection, it is survival. A young orca is vulnerable, soft-bodied and slow, without the muscle to outrun predators or the blubber to endure the cold. But the mother does more than just protect. She educates. Every dive, every motion, every sudden shift in direction is part of an immersive, full-body curriculum designed to mold this calf into a future hunter. The ocean, after all, is not a playground. It's a battlefield. And in the case of orcas, that battlefield is global. From the freezing waters of the Antarctic to the temperate fjords of Norway and the kelp forests of the Pacific Northwest, different orca pods rule different territories, each with their own customs, dialects, and hunting techniques. This isn't just fascinating, it's culture. Orca societies pass down complex knowledge specific to their environment, and the calf must learn the family business or risk falling behind. It's as if every pod is a different mafia family, each with its own signature style of execution. For example, in the icy waters off Patagonia, some orca pods specialize in a hunting technique that is as terrifying as it is impressive: intentional beaching. Adult orcas will hurl themselves onto the shore to snatch unsuspecting sea lions, then wriggle backward into the sea before gravity catches up. It's dangerous, precise, and practiced. And calves? They must learn by watching, mimicking, failing. Mothers and aunts bring the young in close, showing them how to judge the waves, how to time the strike, and most importantly, how not to get stuck. Mistakes can mean death, but caution can mean starvation. This isn't a cute trick, it's an art form with a body count. Elsewhere, like in the northern Pacific, orcas that specialize in fish demonstrate patience and control rather than brute force. Here, adult whales use sound to corral schools of herring into tight balls, stunning them with tail slaps before taking turns to feed. The calf must learn to stay in position, to echo the clicks correctly, to anticipate the movement of the prey without disrupting the hunt. It is a ballet of acoustic warfare and sensory discipline, and the young orca is front row center at every performance. Of course, not all lessons are orchestrated. Some come from necessity, like high-speed pursuits where the pod chases down dolphins or seals across great distances. During these chases, calves are pushed to their limits. Their lungs ache, their muscles burn, and their instincts scream to quit. But their mothers surge ahead, urging them to match pace. This isn't playtime, it's conditioning. And as the calf gains strength, it also gains confidence, endurance, and the understanding that nothing in the ocean is ever truly easy. Every breath must be earned, every meal must be claimed. But what separates killer whale training from the upbringing of other predators is the depth of social instruction. Calves are not just taught how to hunt. They are taught how to be orcas. They learn the dialect of their pod, the specific language of clicks and whistles used only among their kin. They observe how elders interact, how disputes are settled, how alliances are formed. They learn respect, loyalty, hierarchy. And they come to understand that in the orca world, the pod is everything. This devotion to the pod is not just cultural, it's essential. Orcas are one of the few animals, aside from humans, where individuals stay with their mothers for life. Males especially remain closely bonded, even as they grow into massive adults. Their survival is linked not to dominance, but to cooperation. And so, the calf's lessons extend beyond combat. It must learn when to fall in line, when to lead, and when to support. It's trained not only in blood, but in belonging. This makes the role of elder females, especially grandmothers, especially vital. In fact, killer whales are one of the only non-human species known to experience menopause, and post-reproductive females often serve as the wise leaders of the group. These matriarchs remember feeding grounds from decades past, navigate migrations, and guide the pod through seasonal challenges. To the calf, they are living libraries, repositories of knowledge no textbook could ever replace. And they too have a hand in the education of the young, often correcting their behavior with a well-timed shove or a disapproving nudge of the rostrum. In this intricate web of relationships and responsibilities, the calf grows, slowly, steadily, and always under supervision. By the time it is a year old, it has developed a distinct personality. Some are bold and curious, darting through bubbles and experimenting with kelp. Others are shy, hugging close to their mother's side. But all have begun to internalize the lessons of the pod: how to communicate, how to hunt, how to survive. They may still be years away from participating in the full-scale hunts, but the foundation has been laid. They are no longer just babies. They are apprentices, and over time, that apprenticeship pays off. The calf's body thickens, its dorsal fin stiffens, its dives grow longer, deeper, more confident. It joins the front lines during hunts. It begins echoing the techniques of its elders with eerie precision. It learns deception, how to fake a move, how to separate prey from the herd. It learns cruelty, how to toy with a seal before the kill, not for sustenance, but perhaps for sport. And eventually it learns what it means to command fear, because nothing in the sea frightens like a full-grown killer whale. So, while the calf may have entered the world with wide eyes and stubby fins, it emerges years later as one of the most lethal creatures on the planet. Not because of its teeth or speed, but because of its training, methodical, social, relentless. Raised not by brute instinct alone, but by tradition, intelligence, and familial precision. In the end, a killer whale calf isn't just raised. It's sculpted, chiseled by discipline, sharpened by teamwork, and polished by legacy. And when it glides through the ocean's depths, surrounded by its pod, glistening in the light of the dying sun, it's not just a predator. It's the living embodiment of generations of wisdom and wrath, born in silence, raised in code, and trained by the ocean's most fearsome Mafia. Across the sun-baked savannas and rolling grasslands of East Africa, where mirages dance on the horizon and termite mounds rise like sun-scorched castles, a lone silhouette cuts through the brush with elegant precision. It is not the lion, whose brawny frame commands the land with brute force. It is not the hyena, whose cackling chaos marks its unruly kingdom. This figure moves differently, graceful, ghost-like, fluid in its motion. It is the cheetah, the undisputed sprinter of the animal kingdom, and she's not alone. Following clumsily in her wake are several fur-dusted shadows, not yet built for speed but destined for it. Her cubs. They are not racing today. They are learning the rules of a game where speed alone is never enough. Cheetah cubs are born into a paradox. Their mother is the fastest land animal on Earth, capable of reaching 70 miles per hour in short bursts, faster than a sports car off the line. Yet that unmatched velocity is paired with an equally unmatched vulnerability. Unlike lions, cheetahs don't have the muscle mass to brawl. Their teeth are too short, their claws don't fully retract, and their frames, light, aerodynamic, designed like missiles with legs, are made for speed, not for scrapping. They're the track stars of the savannah, not the heavyweights. And this delicate design, while beautiful in motion, makes cheetah cubs perhaps the most endangered little fuzzballs in Africa's underworld of predators. When the cubs are born, helpless, blind, and no bigger than a rabbit, they emerge into a world stacked viciously against them. Their mother, solitary and overworked, must raise them without a pride to protect her or cubs to share nursing duties.
She is the hunter, the nanny, the bodyguard, the teacher, and every single day she has to weigh the risk of leaving her cubs hidden in the grass to hunt,
against the chance that a lion, a leopard, a hyena, or even a martial eagle will sniff them out and turn them into snacks. It's a brutal calculus, and more often than not, nature tips the scales against her. Mortality rates among cheetah cubs are sobering. In some areas, up to 90% don't survive their first 3 months. That's not due to famine or disease, but to murder. Lions are notorious for killing cheetah cubs when they stumble upon a den, not out of hunger, but to eliminate future competition. Hyenas will do the same. Even jackals have been caught trotting away with a still warm cub dangling from their jaws. There is no room for pity in the grasslands, only opportunity. And the cubs, if they want to survive, must evolve into something more than just fast. They must become clever. The training begins early, often before they can run without tumbling over their oversized paws. Their mother drags in half-alive hares and spring hares, releasing them in front of her cubs like a twisted school project. The idea isn't to feed them, it's to teach them. The cubs leap and stumble, pounce and miss, their movements more cartoonish than coordinated. But each attempt sharpens them. They learn how to predict a turn, when to leap, where to sink their teeth. It's trial by fluff, and for every successful catch, there are dozens of faceplants. But it's these clumsy rehearsals that will one day translate into the sleek, explosive ambushes that make adult cheetahs so deadly. As they grow older, the games become more complex. Chases turn into mock ambushes. One cub might circle around while another crouches low, perfecting the pounce. They learn teamwork not because they're social, cheetahs are solitary by nature, but because they must. With so many predators out for their blood, every second counts and every edge matters. They start to discover that outsmarting is just as powerful as outrunning. Tripping a sibling becomes a tactic. Stealing a scrap of meat becomes a lesson in opportunity. Even stalking birds, which flutter off before they're ever caught, teaches them patience and silence. But the most important lesson these cubs learn is one their mother knows all too well. Never draw attention. A successful cheetah is an invisible one. Unlike leopards, who haul kills into trees, or hyenas, who revel in the noise of a conquest, cheetahs must kill quickly, eat quickly, and disappear even faster. Every kill invites trouble. The cubs, with their curious eyes and jittery legs, must learn to stay low, stay quiet, and never linger. Their mother will abandon a kill the moment she hears a hyena's cackle. She won't fight. She can't afford to. She flees, and the cubs must learn to flee too, with mouths still full, hearts pounding, and lessons absorbed. Speed wins the chase, but stealth wins survival. Cheetah cubs also inherit one of nature's most deceptive features, the mantle. This is a long, silvery mohawk of fur that runs down their backs during their early months. To the untrained eye, it's adorable, but to a predator, it's confusing. This feature mimics the shape and movement of the honey badger, one of the most notoriously aggressive and foul-tempered creatures in Africa. A lion might hesitate to attack something that looks like it'll bite back. It's not foolproof, but in the grasslands, illusion is an evolutionary asset, and the cheetah cubs, with their faux fury coats, gain a few more days of safety while they learn to run, fight, and vanish. As they near 6 months old, the cubs finally begin joining their mother on real hunts. They don't participate yet, but they watch from the tall grass, ears perked, eyes locked. Every movement is a lesson in elegance and efficiency. The way their mother creeps within striking distance, keeping her body below the horizon line. The way her shoulder blades roll like pistons beneath her skin. The way she explodes into motion at just the right moment. It's all stored in the cubs' minds like sacred scripture. When she catches something, they rush in. When she misses, they scatter. Every outcome is a data point in their growing understanding of the brutal ballet they were born into. And then one day, it happens. The mother begins holding back, just slightly. She sees an opportunity, slows her stride, lets her cub take the lead. It's messy. The cub zigzags, overshoots the gazelle, crashes into a termite mound, maybe even gets kicked. But it doesn't matter. The lesson is underway. This is where the future begins. Not in the warmth of the den, but in the sprint through danger, through panic, through the dizzying rush of being both predator and prey. Eventually, the cubs become sleek, muscled adolescents. Their once scruffy coats smooth into gold-touched perfection. Their steps tighten into that iconic floating stride. But speed alone still won't save them. They've learned the dirty tricks now. How to steal from careless scavengers. How to spot a hyena before it gets too close. How to circle around the bush to cut off escape routes. They know to avoid lions at all costs and to never trust the quiet. They've survived the gauntlet, dodged the death lottery that claimed so many of their kin, and now they are ready to walk the plains not as cubs, but as ghosts of the grass, elusive, watchful, impossibly fast. In the end, cheetah cubs are not raised to be warriors. They are raised to be specialists, survivors, artists of the chase. Their strength is not in domination, but in calculation. They can't overpower. They can't intimidate. But they can outwit, outpace, and outmaneuver. And that's what makes them remarkable. Because in a world where might usually makes right, the cheetah has carved a throne with nothing but speed, silence, and a little bit of trickery. For these cubs, growing up isn't about becoming the biggest or loudest or meanest. It's about learning to be just fast enough, just smart enough, just invisible enough. Because on the savannah, speed isn't enough. But speed, with the right kind of cunning, that's how legends are made. Beneath the shimmering surface of the ocean, where light dances in rippling patterns and silence stretches for miles, a hidden war rages in the most unexpected place. Not among coral reefs, not in the trenches of the deep sea, but inside a womb. Deep within the belly of a female sand tiger shark, a savage ballet of biology unfolds. One that begins long before birth, in total darkness, without oxygen and without mercy. This is not a tale of sibling rivalry. It's not a jostle for milk or a squabble over toys. This is full-blown intrauterine cannibalism, a literal fight to the death before the first breath is ever drawn, and it begins with a heartbeat and a bite. The sand tiger shark, a creature that glides with sinister elegance through temperate and tropical waters, has a reproductive strategy unlike any other. She doesn't just grow babies, she grows gladiators. Inside her body, in twin uteri on either side of her spinal column, multiple embryos begin to develop from different fathers. Yes, sand tiger sharks are polyandrous, meaning they mate with several males, and their uterus becomes a kind of crowded locker room of half-siblings, each one armed with a jaw full of teeth and an instinct so primal it would make a Roman emperor flinch. At first, the embryos grow like any other, fed by yolk sacs, floating in amniotic fluid, silently forming cartilage, muscles, fins, and teeth. But then, somewhere along the way, a single embryo in each uterus reaches a crucial turning point. It grows its teeth faster, it becomes stronger, and then, with no external threat, no hungry predator looming outside, it does something shocking. It opens its tiny jaws and turns on its own. What follows is a slow-motion ambush in total silence, an underwater version of the Hunger Games playing out inside a maternal body, with no audience but the dark. The dominant embryo begins hunting its siblings one by one, consuming not just the weaker ones, but also their unhatched eggs. It swallows yolk sacs like protein shakes, gorges on its brethren's flesh, and systematically wipes out every competitor. By the time the mother is ready to give birth, only one pup remains in each uterus, well-fed, battle-tested, and significantly larger than most newborn sharks. It emerges into the ocean not as a helpless infant, but as a weapon. Armed with fully functional teeth, it's already capable of hunting fish within hours. It doesn't nurse, it doesn't stumble. It simply swims forward into a world it was already born to dominate. Scientists call this phenomenon embryophagy, which literally translates to eating your siblings. And while it sounds like a bizarre aberration, it's actually a strategic evolutionary masterpiece. In the cutthroat economy of shark survival, producing one or two strong offspring is often more successful than producing dozens of weak ones. A female sand tiger shark might only give birth to 2 pups every couple of years, but those pups have a much higher chance of surviving into adulthood. They're already armed, already large, and already experienced in competition. Nature has invested everything in quality over quantity, and she's made sure that only the most ruthless survive the womb. But it's not just sand tiger sharks that dabble in pre-birth murder. Other species, like the grey nurse shark and some requiem sharks, also exhibit forms of intrauterine aggression, though not always to such an extreme. Some species will lay multiple embryos that compete passively for nourishment, or feed on unfertilized eggs in a process called oophagy. Yet even here, the strategy remains the same. Start the battle before birth and ensure that only the most viable emerge. From a human perspective, it seems unthinkable. After all, the womb is a place of protection, a sacred cradle where life begins. But in the ocean, where every inch is contested and predators lurk around every reef and wreck, the laws are written in a different language. In the world of sharks, the womb is not a nursery. It's a battlefield, a test chamber, a brutal filter through which only the strongest pass. And that strength is needed from the moment a shark pup is born. Unlike mammals, there's no parental care in shark society. The mother delivers her pups and swims away, leaving them to fend entirely for themselves. There's no nursing, no cuddling, no bonding. The pup is on its own from second one, and any moment of weakness can mean death. It must know how to hunt. It must know how to hide. It must know, instinctively, what to chase and what to flee. This high-stakes environment has led to the evolution of pups that are functionally miniature adults, sleek, fast, and fully equipped for survival. But that survival is shaped not just by the external world, but by what happened before the pup even saw the light. The scars of those early battles, whether physical or imprinted deep in its biology, define the creature it becomes. That first kill, made in the dark warmth of the womb, sets a precedent. This is not an animal that learns to kill. This is an animal that was born killing. There's also a chilling elegance to the fact that the shark mother herself has no say in the outcome. She doesn't choose which embryo survives. She doesn't feed the victor more or intervene to save the weaker ones. Her body is simply the arena. She is the vessel for a gladiatorial selection process driven entirely by nature's ruthless logic. And when the survivors emerge, sleek and merciless, she lets them go, not with affection, but with the cold assurance that they are ready. This strange and brutal beginning gives shark pups a unique kind of edge. While most baby animals have the luxury of gradual growth, shark pups must hit the ground swimming, often literally. In the vastness of the sea, with no shelter and no backup, their best chance at survival is raw readiness. And thanks to their prenatal training, they've already had a taste of battle. They've already earned their place in the food chain by climbing over the bodies of their siblings. Of course, not all sharks are born this way. Some lay eggs in protective casings, like the elegant mermaid's purse of the cat shark or horn shark. These hatch in safety, and the pups inside don't compete in quite the same murderous fashion. But the sharks that do embrace intrauterine cannibalism, especially the sand tiger, represent one of the most fascinating and disturbing adaptations in the animal kingdom. They show us that evolution doesn't care about fairness, it cares about effectiveness. And sometimes the most efficient strategy is also the most horrifying. In the end, the story of the shark pup is one of instinct without innocence. There is no moment of naivete, no phase of fragility. From the moment of conception, it is locked into a high-stakes struggle for existence that weeds out the weak before they can even open their eyes. It swims into the world not as a blank slate, but as a polished weapon, shaped by hunger, hardened by blood, and honed in the darkest nursery on Earth. And as it vanishes into the blue, gliding with effortless grace beneath the waves, it carries with it the legacy of that first, silent war. One fought in the warm abyss of a mother's womb, where every heartbeat was a countdown and every sibling a rival. In the ocean, killers aren't made, they're born. And in the case of the shark pup, they start sharpening their teeth before they're even born. In the wild, there is no such thing as innocence. The sun may rise over golden plains or glint off the waves of a sapphire sea, but beneath this poetic beauty lies a brutal truth. Life begins with violence, and survival is a blood-stained skill. Across jungles, oceans, deserts, and skies, a single unifying law reigns supreme. Only the ruthless thrive. And if you want to rule at the top of the food chain, you don't wait until adulthood to sharpen your claws. You start as soon as your eyes open, maybe even before. From lion cubs tumbling in the tall grass to shark embryos consuming their siblings in the womb, what looks like nature's nursery is, in fact, a training ground. These are not playgrounds for the cute and clumsy. These are arenas of selection where play is actually programming and failure is a permanent elimination. The future apex predators, those elite creatures that dominate their ecosystems with a chilling blend of intelligence and instinct, do not rise through luck or charm. They are built through a gauntlet of tests, games, rivalries, and lessons that turn helpless infants into honed instruments of survival. Consider the lion cub, born into the warm underbelly of the savannah pride. On the surface, their world seems idyllic, sun-drenched and surrounded by the comforting bulk of adult guardians. But scratch beneath the surface, and you find an environment simmering with hierarchy and training. Every pounce onto a sibling's tail, every mock ambush through the grass, is a calculated exercise in learning. The cub that strikes faster gets fed first. The one that shows hesitation might find itself left behind when the pride moves. Through these subtle but ceaseless trials, the lion cub doesn't just become a lion. It becomes the lion, the one who will one day challenge rival males, take over a pride, and fight to the death for territory. Childhood for a lion is never about softness. It's about sharpening. Move northward into the forests and tundras, and you'll find wolf pups perfecting a different but equally ruthless path. Here, the game is strategy. The tiny yips and growls of the nursery are merely the early chapters in a long saga of pack dynamics. These pups are taught from day one that survival is a team sport. To succeed as a wolf is not just to run or bite, it is to coordinate, to predict, to follow, and to lead. What begins with rough play and stolen scraps becomes the groundwork for synchronized chases across snowy landscapes, for perfectly timed ambushes that can bring down a moose 5 times their size. These predators are not forged by isolation, but by social mastery, where even the youngest learn to read the subtlest shifts in body language and respond as one. And those who fail to learn, they fall behind, exiled or eaten, never to taste the top of the chain. In the cliffs of the highlands, where wind screams over nests clinging to rock faces, golden eagle chicks take sibling rivalry to operatic extremes. Their nest is less a cradle and more a cage match. The firstborn thrives, the second often falls, pushed, pecked, or starved. This unforgiving start distills a singular message into the surviving chick's psyche. The world is not shared, it is seized. When that chick finally takes flight, it is not tentative or wide-eyed. It is already hardened by betrayal, sharpened by scarcity. It knows how to strike without hesitation, how to dominate the sky with talons that kill in seconds. Childhood here is not a phase. It is the first campaign of a lifelong conquest. Even in the swamps, where crocodile hatchlings emerge into a world that seems to loathe their very existence, we see this theme repeat. From the moment their eggs crack open, these creatures are thrown into a maelstrom of threats, from fish and birds to their own kind. There is no time to fumble. A moment's hesitation means becoming someone else's meal. The survivors are those who figure out camouflage, stealth, and patience almost instinctively. Their games are ambush drills. Their quiet periods are camouflage tests. And when they grow, slowly, methodically, they do so with a mind sharpened by constant fear. These crocs don't trust. They don't hesitate. And when they strike, it's with the precision of a creature that spent every day of its childhood dodging death. Then there are the Orca calves, swimming in the cold waters of the Pacific with their matrilineal Mafia. Their education is less chaotic, more calculated, but no less critical. These young killers are trained through mimicry and mentorship, absorbing the intricacies of multi-generational hunting strategies passed down like secret family recipes. They don't just chase, they plan. They don't just pounce, they deceive. Each calf is the beneficiary of a cultural lineage of warfare, trained in the art of strategic thinking from infancy. The ocean doesn't allow mistakes, But these calves are born into clans that turn them into specialists, creatures that can outwit seals, sharks, and even humans with unnerving ease. Of course, some lessons start even earlier. In the shadowy abyss of a sand tiger shark's uterus, competition is primal, literal, and grotesque. The first embryo to develop teeth becomes a predator before it is even born, consuming its siblings with cold efficiency. It's the evolutionary equivalent of a winner-takes-all deathmatch, but hidden behind the placid face of a swimming adult. That lone surviving pup doesn't come into the world to learn how to kill. It emerges already having done it, and from that moment forward, it swims with a head start no school of fish can outpace. This, in the end, is the great secret of apex predators. Their supremacy is not just about what they do as adults, it's about how they are shaped as young. The same traits that make them deadly, speed, stealth, strength, cunning, are refined not in maturity, but in their earliest moments. Their play is never innocent. Their fights are not just for fun. Each bite, each chase, each stare down with a sibling or stranger is a thread in a tapestry that stretches upward to the peak of the food chain. And what of those that don't make it? They vanish without a trace. Nature rarely mourns. The ecosystem swallows the failed, like a gambler swallows a lost bet. The prey lives to breed another day, and the predator that couldn't kill well enough fades from memory. But those that pass childhood's gauntlet, those are the ones who matter. The lions who roar from termite-mound thrones, the eagles who strike with surgical force, the wolves who move like a single mind over snow, the crocodiles who wait hours for the perfect kill, the orcas who choreograph death like a ballet, and the sharks who began life by consuming a womb mate. These are the apex, and their rule is absolute. Every food chain is a pyramid, and at its top stands not just a predator, but a survivor of a brutal childhood. These apex predators are the sculptors of balance, the regulators of population, the guardians of evolution's cruel design. Their violence is not reckless, it is necessary. Without them, herbivores overrun, disease spreads, ecosystems collapse. Their lethal precision is not a flaw, it is the very mechanism by which the wild stays wild. So the next time we look at a lion cub tumbling in the grass, or a baby shark swimming solo through a reef, we should remember, we are not watching a child at play. We are witnessing a future ruler undergoing its first trial. The cuteness is camouflage, the games are rehearsals, because in the wild, childhood was never meant to be gentle, it was meant to prepare. In the animal kingdom, the apex predator is not born with a crown, it is born with teeth and a lesson. Learn to kill or disappear, and for those who learn well, the top of the food chain is not a destination, it is destiny. Hit that subscribe button like a baby hyena asserting dominance. Give this video a like before a shark pup eats it, and don't slink away yet. Our next documentaries are even deadlier, weirder, and wilder.